Welcome back to Bookkast, Bestsellers in Minutes. We're diving deep today into Brooke Shields' memoir, Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. Thoughts on aging as a woman.
It's such a powerful look at, aging, especially as a woman, and how to kind of break free from all those expectations society throws at you.
And really, who better to break it down for us than Brooke Shields? I mean, think about it. Child star, iconic model, right? Successful actress, mother, businesswoman. She's done it all.
Exactly. And all those experiences really come through in her perspective on getting older.
Absolutely. And she doesn't hold back either. I mean, one of the first things that jumped out at me was how she talks about facing ageism, even with, a legendary career like hers.
Oh, yeah. She's still being offered, mostly those stereotypical mom roles. And she even feels ignored by those brands that just chase after the younger demographics.
It's ironic, right? I mean, she highlights how women over 40 have massive purchasing power. We're talking trillions of dollars here.
Trillions. And yet they're overlooked by the very industries that are desperate for their money.
It's wild. And I think Brooke even suggests that this whole marketing disconnect might be rooted in an underlying discomfort with aging female sexuality.
Interesting.
Like advertisers are almost afraid to portray older women as desirable, even though they're the ones with the resources to actually buy those luxury products.
That's a really insightful point. It really makes you think about how we perceive and value women as they get older. Do we appreciate their experience and wisdom, or do we just try to erase them?
Exactly. And for Brooke, this whole idea of reclaiming her narrative really comes through. There's this amazing story about how she actually bought back her first car,
I remember that.
this 1983 Mercedes.
Yeah.
And she sees it as this symbol of taking ownership of her life,
Yeah.
especially after, decades of feeling like she was owned by others, as she puts it.
It's such a powerful story, and it really captures the essence of the book, right? It's about defying those expectations, those boxes people try to put you in, and just writing your own story.
Yes, and this theme pops up again when she talks about performing a one-woman show at the legendary Cafe Carlyle in New York City.
Oh, right.
She was totally terrified beforehand,
Understandably.
full of self-doubt, riddled with anxiety.
I mean, that's a huge stage, right?
But she pushed through it all and ended up learning this incredible lesson. Saying no to things you don't want to do is just as important as saying yes to the things that scare you.
Absolutely. It's about realizing you have the power to choose.
Yes.
Making choices that align with your values.
Totally. And this whole idea of taking control also comes up when she talks about her experience with postpartum depression.
Oh, of course. That was such a brave thing to talk about openly, especially back then when mental health was so stigmatized.
It was. But she didn't just share her story. She turned it into a platform for advocacy. She really worked to destigmatize the condition and push for legislation to, provide more awareness and support for women.
It's so inspiring how she took this really difficult personal experience and turned it into something positive that could help so many other women.
Absolutely. And you can see this kind of evolution of confidence throughout the book.
Oh, totally.
She used to rely so heavily on external validation,
Like seeking approval from others.
Yeah, but now it's like she's defining her own worth, and that shift is so empowering.
It makes you wonder, what would it look like for all of us to embrace that kind of self-assurance? To let go of needing that external validation and find that confidence within ourselves.
I know, right? And it feels like as we get older, those societal pressures just start to matter less anyway.
That's true.
And speaking of confidence being tested, remember that story about her breaking her femur?
Oh my gosh, yes.
That was scary.
The doctor messed up during surgery.
It was awful.
And then she had to fight so hard to get the right medical care. I can't even imagine. It's terrifying. And it just highlights how important self-advocacy is, especially, in healthcare settings where women, and especially older women, aren't always taken seriously.
It's true. We're often dismissed or our concerns are downplayed.
Exactly. And Brooke had to become her own champion, demanding respect and refusing to be brushed aside.
It's a good reminder that we can't always rely on others to advocate for us. We have to be informed, ask questions, and speak up when something feels wrong.
Absolutely. And this confidence even extends to how she talks about body image. It's fascinating to hear her reflect on, her past contributions to those unrealistic beauty standards. I mean, she was the Calvin Klein jeans girl.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But now she's prioritizing health and well-being, embracing a more nuanced approach to fitness and body image as she gets older.
It's refreshing, isn't it? She's moving away from those external pressures and defining beauty on her own terms.
It's not about fitting into a mold anymore.
No, it's about feeling strong and healthy and comfortable in your own skin. And this shift in perspective seems tied to her experience with menopause.
Definitely.
She's so open and honest about the whole process, from the hot flashes to this unexpected surge in creativity she experienced.
I love how she talks about menopause with both honesty and humor. I mean, she quotes Kristen Scott Thomas, who describes it as like winning an award, this idea of freedom from expectations and biological constraints. It's really powerful.
It is. It challenges us to reframe how we view menopause, not as the end of something, but as this new beginning, a time for rediscovering yourself.
Absolutely. And Brooke also emphasizes how important social support is during this transition. She talks about how much it meant to connect with other women going through the same thing.
That's so important. And it reminds me of that beautiful friendship she formed with Allie Wentworth, proving that those deep connections can happen at any age.
Exactly. And speaking of transitions, we can't forget about the one she faced when her daughters left for college.
The empty nest, right?
It's such a bittersweet time. There's a sense of loss, but also this newfound freedom.
She describes it as being demoted to the understudy, which I thought was such a perfect analogy.
It really is. You're still there, but the spotlight has shifted.
It's not about being the leading lady anymore.
Right. It's about accepting that shift and finding your own passions outside of motherhood. And Brooke really embraces this idea of becoming more intentional about her relationships, prioritizing those that bring joy and mutual benefit and stepping back from the ones that just drain her energy.
It's about setting boundaries and making choices that align with your values.
Absolutely. And this newfound clarity seems to extend to her definition of ambition as well.
Oh, definitely.
She talks about how in the past, her ambition was driven by this need for external validation, for proving herself to the world.
Right, like she had to constantly prove herself.
But now it's more about finding meaning and purpose in her work, pursuing projects that truly resonate with her and make a positive impact.
It's about aligning your actions with your values, creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
She's not chasing fame or fortune. She's pursuing work that matters to her.
And that authenticity shines through.
Speaking of being true to herself, remember that story about the condescending investor who tried to dismiss her ideas?
Oh, yeah. The one who basically told her to, sit down and be quiet.
And she just told him, I want your money, not your opinion. Talk about a power move.
Oh, I loved that. But have you ever been in a situation where, pushing back so directly made things worse? I wonder if that always works.
That's a great question. I think it depends on the situation, But I admire her boldness, especially in an industry where women are often expected to be more, accommodating.
Right. Don't rock the boat.
Exactly.
It takes courage to stand your ground like that. And it really speaks to that theme of owning your power, refusing to be silenced.
She's not letting anyone tell her what she can or cannot do.
Exactly.
It's really inspiring.
It is. It seems like this stage of life is about figuring out what truly matters to you and making choices based on what you want, not what you think you should do.
It's about embracing that do I want this mentality.
Yes.
And that brings us to the core message of the book. Aging isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace.
To celebrate.
It's not about clinging to youth. It's about celebrating all the wisdom, the experience, and the hard-earned confidence that comes with getting older.
It's about redefining what it means to age gracefully.
And powerfully and authentically.
Exactly.
And it makes you think, what are the things we hold ourselves back from because of age?
Right. What are those societal expectations that we need to challenge?
And that's exactly what Brooke is inviting us to do, to question those assumptions and create our own definition of what it means to age well,
I love that.
To age on our own terms.
Absolutely. So before we jump to the break, we were discussing how Brooke's ambition has, kind of shifted away from needing that external validation.
Yeah, and now she's all about those projects that feel meaningful to her.
Right. Which actually led her to, launch her own business event. That's right.
And it started as this community platform, but then it evolved into this whole beauty and hair care line, specifically targeted towards women over 40.
Oh, that's right.
I thought that was so interesting because it really shows she's not just talking the talk.
She's walking the walk.
She's walking the walk. She saw a need in the market, a whole demographic that was being ignored.
Completely overlooked.
And she actually took action.
Exactly. It shows that entrepreneurial spirit, that willingness to, take risks and put herself out there.
Totally. And to your point, it shows her dedication to really empowering women in this
Well,
stage of life. It's not just about, making products. It's about shifting the whole conversation around aging,
absolutely.
challenging those assumptions that women somehow become invisible or irrelevant after a certain age, which is it's ridiculous.
Right, like we just disappear.
We disappear.
It's crazy.
It's so silly.
But she's reclaiming that space.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, we're still here. We're still vibrant. We still matter.
We have so much to offer.
Exactly.
And she's doing it all while, going through all the physical and emotional changes that come with menopause, which, let's be real, isn't always a walk in the park.
Definitely not.
She's incredibly open about her experience.
Mm-hmm.
The hot flashes, the mood swings, all of it.
A societal baggage that comes with it, too.
Oh, yes.
All that stuff.
It's so refreshing to hear someone speak so honestly about something that's so often, shrouded in secrecy and shame.
I know. It's like, why are we still whispering about this?
It's natural.
That happens to most women.
It's a natural biological process. And I love that she even has that funny anecdote about having a hot flash on a movie set
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
and thinking she was, coming down with something
And the director had to stop filming.
because she was sweating so much.
It was so intense.
That's what I love about her approach, She finds the humor in these situations, which makes it all feel less scary and more relatable.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's be real. Sometimes you just got to laugh.
Absolutely.
But she also acknowledges the challenges and the importance of, finding support during this transition.
Of course, having that community, that network.
Yes. And she talks about how valuable it was for her to connect with other women who were, going through the same thing.
Sharing those experiences, offering advice.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we don't have to go through this alone.
Not at all.
There's strength in numbers.
For sure. And remember that friendship she formed with Ollie Wentworth?
Oh, yeah.
It just blossomed during this time, proving that, you can create those deep, meaningful connections at any age.
Absolutely. And it makes me think about my own friendships and how they've evolved over time.
It's so important to have those people you can lean on.
Those people who get it, who you can laugh with and cry with.
Exactly. And speaking of transitions, we can't forget about the one Brooke experienced when her daughters left for college.
Oh, the empty nest.
It's a big one.
A bittersweet time for sure.
Lots of emotion.
Yeah, filled with that sense of loss, but also, a sense of freedom.
Yeah, it's a big adjustment for any parent.
You go from being the center of your children's world to, figuring out who you are outside of that role.
It can be a real identity shift.
And she describes it as being demoted to the understudy,
Oh, that's perfect.
which I thought it was such a perfect analogy.
It really is. You're still there, but the focus is different.
Yeah, the spotlight is shifted.
Exactly.
And that can be tough to adjust to
But can also be a chance to, explore new things.
to rediscover yourself.
To rediscover yourself, exactly.
And she actually talks about, taking dance classes again,
I remember that.
which was something she'd always loved, but, never had the time for.
Yeah, life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way, exactly.
But it's never too late to pick those things back up.
It's never too late. That's a good point. And this all ties back into her, philosophy of being more intentional about her relationships.
Well, for sure.
Prioritizing those that bring her joy, and stepping back from those that drain her energy.
Setting boundaries, it's important.
It is. It's about recognizing that our time and energy are precious.
They are. And it's okay to say no to things that don't serve us.
It is.
And it's okay to walk away from relationships that aren't healthy or fulfilling anymore.
Sometimes that's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Absolutely, for your own well-being.
And she also talks about how her relationship with her husband has evolved over time.
Right. They've been together for so long.
They've been through so much together, raising kids, building careers, and now facing, the empty nest.
It's a testament to how strong their bond is.
It is, and to their ability to adapt,
And to communicate, to be open about their needs.
Exactly, and to support each other's growth.
It's a beautiful example of a mature, loving relationship that's still evolving.
It is.
And it's clear how much she cherishes being a mom.
Oh, absolutely. She adores her daughter.
And she's so proud of the women they're becoming.
She is, but she's honest about the challenges too, especially as your kids become adults.
The whole new phase of parenting.
It is. She calls it the letting go process.
Which is, it's both liberating and heartbreaking.
It is. You want them to be independent, to find their own way.
But you also miss that closeness.
Exactly.
It's a tough balance.
It is, but she seems to be navigating it with grace and humor.
That's her style.
It is, and she's committed to, staying connected with her daughters, supporting them, but also recognizing that their relationship is changing.
Yeah, it's evolving.
It's evolving, and it's a reminder that, our relationships with our children are always evolving, and that's okay.
That's a part of life.
It is. And as she's, going through all these different roles and relationships,
Yeah.
she's also become so much more present and mindful in her everyday life.
Oh, that's great.
She talks about slowing down,
And appreciating those little things.
appreciating the little things, finding joy in the simple moments, whether it's, taking a walk in nature, savoring a cup of coffee, or just spending time with loved ones.
It's about being present.
Being present. Yeah, it's a good reminder that we don't always have to be striving or achieving,
Right. Sometimes it's enough just to be.
just to be. Welcome back to our deep dive into Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. We've covered so much, from ageism and entrepreneurship to like her really honest views on menopause and motherhood.
And it's amazing how it all comes together. This portrait of a woman who's not just dealing with getting older, but actually thriving in it.
One thing that stuck with me was how her view on body image has changed over time.
Right. She talks about how for so long it felt like her body wasn't really hers.
And it makes sense when you think about it, right? I mean, her whole career.
She was sexualized so young.
Exactly. Remember that awful interview where Barbara Walters asked her to stand up and compare measurements? It's crazy to watch now.
I know, it's hard to believe that actually happened.
It just shows how ingrained those crazy beauty standards are, especially in Hollywood.
Totally. And what's incredible is how Brooke's been able to reclaim her body, shift her focus to health and well-being instead of trying to fit into some impossible ideal.
It's like she's finally at peace with her body, accepting it at every age.
And she talks about finding joy in movement, like dancing or Pilates or even just taking a walk.
Yeah, it's not about punishing yourself or depriving yourself. It's about feeling good.
Strong and healthy in her own skin.
Exactly. And she's honest about the realities of aging, too.
Right. Things change.
Things change. Your metabolism slows down.
You have to be more mindful.
But it's not about obsessing over every calorie.
No, or denying yourself pleasure.
Right. She talks about enjoying a glass of wine or a good meal without the guilt.
Exactly. Finding that balance, that's key.
It is. And listening to your body.
Respecting what it needs.
And recognizing that beauty, it comes in all shapes and sizes at any age.
It's not about erasing time.
No, it's about celebrating the journey.
That's it. The whole journey.
And she doesn't just focus on the physical changes. She also talks about the emotional and mental shifts that come with getting older.
Yeah, being honest about those is important too.
She's really open about her own struggles with anxiety and depression, and she stresses how important it is to ask for help when you need it.
Therapy, medication, all those tools that can be so valuable.
It's refreshing to hear someone like her, with all her fame and success, be so open about mental health.
It really helps break down the stigma.
It does, and she also talks about self-care,
Oh, taking time for yourself.
taking time for yourself, whether it's reading, getting a massage, or even just being in nature,
It's about recognizing your own needs,
and making them a priority.
which ties into her view on relationships too.
Oh, for sure.
She's more discerning now.
Prioritizing connections that bring her joy, and stepping back from the ones that drain her.
Setting boundaries.
Yes. And it's okay to let go of relationships that aren't working anymore.
Sometimes it's the healthiest thing you can do.
It is. And she even talks about how her relationship with her husband has changed over time.
They've been together so long.
So long. They've gone through it all, raising kids, their careers, now the empty nest.
It's amazing they've made it work.
It's a testament to their commitment, their willingness to adapt.
And their communication.
Yeah, and how they support each other's growth.
It's a really beautiful example of a mature, loving relationship that's still growing.
And it's so clear how much she loves being a mom.
She adores her daughters.
She does.
And she's incredibly proud of the women they're becoming.
But she's honest about the challenges of parenting as they become adults.
That letting go process.
It's so bittersweet.
Liberating, but also heartbreaking.
You want them to be independent,
In their own way.
but you miss that closeness.
That's a tough balance.
It is, but she seems to be handling it with so much grace.
And humor, as always.
That's her. And she's committed to staying connected with her daughters, but also recognizing that their relationship is different now.
It's always evolving.
It is. It's a good reminder that our relationships with our children are always changing. And that's okay.
It's part of life.
It is. And as she's navigating all these changes in her roles and relationships, she's become so much more present in her everyday life.
Oh, that's wonderful.
She talks about slowing down, appreciating the small things, finding joy in those simple moments,
Like taking a walk, enjoying a cup of coffee.
or just being with loved ones.
It's about being present.
Being present, yeah. And it's a good reminder that we don't have to be constantly striving or achieving.
Sometimes just being is enough.
Just being.
And that brings us to the heart of it all, this idea that aging isn't something to fear.
But to embrace.
It's not about clinging to youth.
It's about celebrating the wisdom and the experience that come with getting older.
That hard-earned confidence.
Yes.
Mhm.
She's challenging those expectations that tell us we need to be young and wrinkle-free to be valuable.
She's not going to disappear.
She's going to keep growing, keep evolving.
And finding joy in this next chapter.
Exactly, and that's a powerful message for all of us.
We live in a culture that worships youth and often pushes older women aside.
But Brooke is reminding us that our stories don't end at a certain age.
We can be vibrant, relevant.
And make our voices heard.
She's not just defying expectations, she's redefining what it means to age gracefully, powerfully, authentically.
And she's encouraging all of us to do the same.
Brooke Shields is not allowed to get old. It's a must-read for everyone, especially women navigating the ups and downs of getting older.
It's a reminder that we don't have to conform to anyone else's expectations.
We can define our own terms.
Create our own happily ever afters.
And that's Brooke Shields is not allowed to get old.
Bestsellers in minutes, right here on Bookkast.
We hope you enjoyed our dip dive.
Until next time, keep reading and keep exploring.